Richard Randall. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Realty and the host of the program. Now, Barb, most people worry about leaving money on the table when they accept an offer. Can they still show their home and look at other offers after accepting a contract?
Well, absolutely they can and they should. And it kind of gets you in a better position if you have, basically the heir and the spare to buy your house. It's really important. So basically, what home sellers want is certainty. They want to know that their house will sell. They want to know that they're going to get the price they want and need. They want to know it's going to go smoothly, but you don't know, because the buyer has so many opportunities to bail out. They could bail out if they don't like the paint color. They could bail out if they don't like the title work. They could bail out if they change their mind about their the interest rate and terms on their loan. They could bail out if they don't like the inspection. They could bail out if they don't like the HOA. They could bail out if it doesn't appraise. They could bail out if they don't like their loan at the very end, just like a week before closing. And worst of all, they could bail out at the closing table, the way the state contracts are set up, and get their earnest money back, no harm, no foul. Could you imagine, Richard, moving out of your house, right? You're thinking everything's cool, hunky dory, they're going to the finish line, the money's going to show up, and I'll be moving on to the next house. And the buyer walks at the closing table.
Unbelievable.
It's
Unbelievable.
happened.
Well, here's the thing, and I just got to be honest. If that happened, there's only one person I want standing there to help me with the situation, and you know who she is. It's you.
Well, thank you. But I will tell you, though, that there's a way to protect the seller from that, especially if it's a big expense. Most of the buyers want you to move out prior to closing, but you still don't have that certainty that it's going to go to the finish line. So it's not a done deal when you accept a contract. It's the one day that sellers are a lot happier because they're heading to the finish line. And in most cases, it does go well, but there's going to be some bumps on the road from here on out. Let's start with the inspection. So I could spend 2 hours on inspections. In the state of Colorado, there is no license to be an inspector, right? I could be an inspector, and I'm downright dangerous with a tool in my hands. So there's no criteria, there's no license. Only thing they do license for in the state is to test for radon gas. Radon gas is the natural radiation that emanates from granite decomposing. It's in about 1 out of 2 homes in this market. If the measurement level, called a picocure, is more than 4, then a lot of times the buyer will ask for you to put in what's called a radon mitigation system. Generally, they cost about $2,500, and the theory is it blows the radon out before it comes into the living space. But it's another thing that's negotiable. I just closed one where they asked for, it was, I think, 26 repairs and $30,000 in cash. That's what they started with. We didn't end up there. I think the seller did about 10 repairs. Most of them they rejected. And the money that they wanted was to buy stuff so they could allegedly do repairs. So seller had to pay for a couple of things on the closing statement just to get it done. But it was odd. It was like, why are you, I don't know. It's not their time to get upgrades. When you buy a used home, you can't expect it to be perfect. Same with a new home. You should inspect a new home as well. But here's the thing, because the inspectors are not really licensed, they're not really qualified, they're actually not allowed to pull toilets when they check the sewer line unless they're a licensed plumber, but they do it all the time. So how do you know they're going to put that seal back when they pull a toilet? You don't know. You don't know what's underneath there unless you do it yourself. But I've had them do crazy things, like run their little moisture meter on the wall and claim there's alleged mold, or I don't know. I could spend an hour on inspections. That's why I highly recommend that you talk to us about that process and maybe have your home positioned as a certified pre-owned home. That way it's pre-inspected, pre-certified, it's got a warranty. You've dealt with all the issues up front, and the buyer should just be able to check, check, good to go. They will bring their own inspector. I don't know why the agents make them spend that money if it was pre-inspected, but they do. But anyway, there's a lot of information that happens in the process. So first we order title. That usually doesn't create a problem. Then we do the inspection. That creates most of the problems. Once the inspection's done, then they hire an appraiser to come and substantiate that the home is worth the agreed upon sales price and that the home meets the loan guidelines. So the one I just closed, it did not meet the loan guidelines because it had a deck that didn't have a rail. So we had to build a rail. And, that was required by the buyer's appraiser. So the seller went ahead and did that because he said, it's probably going to be required no matter who the buyer is. And of course, the buyer wants it done a week before closing, and we can't get the parts. And it's just created all kinds of drama and chaos and we're not at the finish line yet. The value was fine, but the condition wasn't fine. So there's landmines every step of the way. And then you finally get to the closing table and just go, we made it. So sometimes I'm surprised. I had one that I sold kind of out of area, and the agents down there in that little small town, they don't work like we do. He supplied the earnest deposit, which really put us out of contract from the get-go because there's a deadline in there. If you miss a deadline, technically it means you're out of contract. And I said, we need to have the earnest deposit at title. Yeah, no, we're just going to do that at closing. And I'm like, oh my God. So we were kind of like fingers crossed, hoping it was going to close. And thankfully it did. But, it's the Wild West out here for real estate. You need somebody that knows what's going on. So at least as a home seller, you're informed. You want to make sure that you hire an agent that really is familiar with the contract, that understands how to position your home, to understand what's in the offers. So there's no gotcha surprises in there. Believe me, these agents love putting big blurbs of blue, even though they're not attorneys, and thrown in stuff that's just ridiculous that can make your life miserable. So you want somebody to actually read the contract and don't have them. That's another thing. So we don't have to verify the buyer can buy. Then we're going to write the contract and we shove it to the client, and we're not obligated as agents to explain it to them. Right? Now you're a lawyer, Richard. Don't you explain stuff to your clients?
That is one of the most crucial, important things that you do. You cannot expect your client, or in this case, a buyer or a seller, to understand all the legalese, all the terminology, all the paperwork. Part of being a great real estate agent is being great at communicating, not just with the other people involved in the transaction, but with your own people.
Right. And when you get an offer, you better read it. There's one provision that a lot of the agents like to put in, one of my favorite ones, like the due diligence clause, paragraph 10.6.1.6. I have it memorized, which is ridiculous, but it's a big, long blue paragraph. And the last sentence says the seller has to disclose anything that affects the future value of the property or the buyer's future use. Now, how would the seller know that? Nobody can predict the future. Why is that in there? I finally asked an agent, I said, where did you get this paragraph? Why is this in here? Because it wasn't something that came in the state approved form. They dropped it in. And she goes, oh, an attorney wrote that. And I said, yeah, I bet they did. That would open the door for a lot of lawsuits. If something happened in the future with the house about its future value or the buyer's future use. It's just crazy town. And they think that's okay. They think it sounds cool. It makes them sound like they are baby lawyers.
I have to say, Barb, that cut and paste mentality, that is prevalent when it comes to legal documents. And I'm not surprised then it would start showing up in contracts and other provisions when it comes to real estate because, oh, I like that. Well, just copy that and put it in on my thing.
Exactly. We see it all the time. And I every time I see that stuff, my little German Shepherd ears go up. I'm like, whoa, what's this say? No, 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 we're not playing. So you have to be very careful about what's in there. And then what about a sale contingency? So just that language in the contract is very subtle. It's just putting a date on one deadline and one little line embedded in one little paragraph in paragraph 10. So it's not real obvious if the agent's not paying attention and all of a sudden their client has executed a contract contingent on some home selling that's not even on the market yet. Guess what? That's a problem. Because when you go out and tell the world it's under contract, the other buyers quit coming and it's not a done deal. That's what I'm saying. You got to be really, really careful, especially on the contingency thing. And the local MLS is one of them that says, well, if the seller accepts a contingent contract, you have to change the status to something very unique just to this local MLS. But when it goes out to the tech companies like Zillow, Realtor.com, and Homes.com, it tells the world the home is not available. But it is available if you have a buyer that doesn't have a house to sell. So it's just some of the rules that we have to deal with. We got to find a way around it. That's why it's so important to hire a team that really knows what they're doing, so you don't get stuck, taking your house off the market for a maybe buyer. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900. My name is Barb Schlinker with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some other solutions that can make sure that it's a done deal when you close on your home. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, we've gone from nearly all homes selling and selling for a premium price to homes sitting longer on the market and some homes not actually selling at all. How do you give your home sellers certainty that the home will sell?
Well, one of our solutions is basically some people are in the very fortunate position where they have a paid for home and they can just walk right in and buy their next home, no problem, and then take their time selling their current home. That's awesome. Very low stress process. But at the end of the day, they would like to not have a loan on their new house either. But we actually have some really cool buy before you sell programs that are designed where our lenders go and buy your dream home for you and let you take your time selling your current home without bridge financing and without a sale contingency. And you don't have to pay 2 house payments. It is absolutely the best of both worlds. It allows you to move at your pace, allows you to sell at your pace, takes all the pressure off of both the buyer and the seller, and it makes for a nice, smooth transaction. In general, the qualification is you have to have a little bit of equity, not a whole lot. Qualify for that future loan you may get, or maybe you're paying cash on your next house. The cost of this program is averages at 2%, and it's not a loan. It may not even be a lien, and you just settle up all the cost when you actually close. We have 7 different buy before you sell programs that provide those opportunities to buyers. That way they know for certain they're going to get their dream house and they can take their time selling their current home. If you want to find out more about that, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or you can go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Real Estate Voice and Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making the move, Barb is the number to call, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing why some home sellers fail to select the right agent to sell one of the largest assets anyone ever has, their home. Plus, Barb's Hot New Listings. Don't miss that.